Hello, all you Sleevox out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
Sleevox, sure.
We love them. This is Undeclared Bajor, the best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
What up?
Today we're going to discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 7, Episode 17, Penumbra. Alternate title, Once You Go Worf, You Always Want Morph.
Morph, the character from the 90s X-Men show?
Yes.
Okay. I can see that.
It's the next logical progression, you know. This episode originally aired April 7th, 1999. It was written by Renee Echevarria and directed by Steve Posey. And Sarah Lofton is in the episode.
Oh my gosh, really?
Can't believe it. He's actually here.
He's in an episode. Wow.
We will be discussing spoilers up through this episode. For example, that Sarah Lofton is in it.
Oh man, spoiler.
But not after this episode. We're not going to tell you any future episodes Sarah Lofton might not be in, or might be in.
He is either in or not in every episode from here to the end of the series.
Oh my gosh.
Spoiled.
So it is safe to watch along with us if this is your first time watching Star Trek DS9. But sometimes we spoil other stuff, so watch out.
That new Superman movie? Superman's in it.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
No, I'm not even going to bother seeing it.
And according to the internet, it is super woke.
Oh no, not woke.
As far as I can tell, it is super woke because Superman mentions that he is an immigrant to Earth, and also because it has a focus on like being a decent human being, which I guess is woke now.
Yeah, that's woke. Empathy is the ultimate weakness of mankind. Haven't you heard that?
Oh, I had heard that. That's a good point.
Yeah, we can't be having that. We can't be having people, like, understanding each other, trying to get along with each other. This just will not stand, this non-aggression. But, first things first, how would you rate the title of this episode, Penumbra?
Okay, so first we got to take a look at the explanation of the title.
That would probably help.
Here. It says, the title of this episode, Penumbra, refers to a region of half shadow, half light. The word is usually used to refer to one of the parts of the shadow during an eclipse. The penumbra comes before the umbra, the darkest part of the shadow. Therefore, the title may be a reference to the fact that the show is now moving into its final chapter. The following two episodes were tentatively entitled Umbra and Eclipse.
Ooh.
So if they had actually gone the whole 9 yards and done Penumbra, Umbra, and Eclipse... Like, I feel like that would have been a pretty solid, like, series of titles there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Spoiler, they did not do that.
Uh-huh.
Which kind of leaves this one hanging out as, like, okay, so this is the second darkest shadow before an eclipse.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Well, it kind of has this sense of, oh, just wait until you see the stuff that's coming after this episode.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
Which I think doesn't speak much for the episode itself.
But it's not particularly memorable for me. I don't, I would not have remembered that was an episode title. I could not tell you what episode it was if you did tell me that was an episode title. I guess they put a lot of thought into it. It would have been clever if they could have gotten away with the whole thing, but they didn't, so...
Right.
It's just not scoring high on any of the criteria for me, quite honestly. Not to say that it's, like, bad... Like, clearly they put a lot of work into it. It's just that in the end it didn't work out.
Sure. I think I don't know, it kind of goes along with the episode, which is a lot of setup for stuff.
It's true.
But, yeah, as a title, at least try to, I don't know, make it sound like the episode can stand on its own, is my advice.
Yeah. I mean... This does note, this episode is the first part of a 10-hour, 9-part series finale, advertised at the time as the final chapter.
Ooh.
So, yeah, there's like, hey, get ready for the final chapter, here we go.
The final chapter. So, anyway, at the beginning of this episode, Ben shows Cassidy a picture of a new plot of land he bought on Bajor.
He beats around the bush up to it at first, but...
Right, he's like, hey, take a look at this picture I took of this land.
And he's like, I'm going to build a house here. And she's like, yeah, right, I've heard that kind of stuff before. He's like, no, seriously, I bought this. They gave me a really good deal because I'm the emissary. And I was like, what, really? You're going to charge the emissary? And they're like, oh, man, okay.
I couldn't tell if this picture was like some kind of composited effect or if he really... Because it starts right on the picture and then the camera kind of moves around to be him holding the picture.
I did not notice this.
But anyway, yes, this land is in the Kendra province, just south of the Yolja River.
So is it near like the Kendra Valley Massacre?
Maybe.
That was a thing, wasn't it? Hold on, am I making this up? Yeah, no, Kendra Valley Massacre. Yeah, that's the one. That's where what's his name? Like they were like, oh my gosh, Vedic Burial was really secretly a collaborator behind the massacre, but then it wasn't him.
But then it was actually that other guy.
It was Kai Opaka.
Oh no, it was It was Kai Opaka and Vedic Burial took the hit.
Yeah,
or something. But it's even got a few wild moba trees in a creek that runs through the meadows and into the forest. He spotted it on his way to visit a monastery after attending one of those mini conferences on Bajor, and decided this was where he wants to build his house.
They love their conferences down there.
Through some unknown means, he acquired 12 hecapates of prime real estate. I don't think he ever actually says... Well, does he say he bought it?
I'm pretty sure he says he bought it.
He acquired it somehow. And as soon as this war is over, he's going to move there. Or I guess set up a vacation house there, because he pitches it to Cassidy as a place they can visit anytime they want.
Yeah.
And then maybe he'll retire there. But didn't the prophets tell you weren't allowed to find peace on Bajor or something like that?
Screw them, he says.
Yeah, I'm sure they weren't being serious.
They're jokesters, those prophets.
Right. Ben and Cassidy reflect together about how funny life is, that this once temporary assignment on Bajor has turned into such a deep love for the place and the people. It must be destiny. And when it turns out your mother was being possessed by a prophet when she made you, destiny starts to sound like more than just a figure of speech. Ben looks at a picture of his mother and asks Cassidy if the whole divinely conceived emissary thing bothers her at all. Cassidy says no. I mean, it was kind of fucked up how that prophet hijacked your mother and forced her into a life she clearly didn't want, but otherwise it's cool.
But after she gave birth to the magical savior, it let her go and she got to live her life of being a photographer in Australia like she always wanted.
Victimless crime.
Until she died. Which may or may not have been related to the prophets, I don't know.
Then Ezri, Julian, and Miles hang out in the Replomat, and Ezri mentions that she ran into Captain Baudet, the transparent skull guy.
This show really loves to tease Captain Baudet, but never let us see him. It's sad.
I wish they would have just gone for it. Just show us that transparent skull.
Don't even tell us his name's Captain Baudet. Just she's hanging out with transparent skull guy, and you're like, oh my gosh, is that finally Captain Baudet?
I want to know if Captain Baudet's transparent skull is related to his alien species or if it's unrelated.
I'm pretty sure they mentioned that it's a Galamite trait.
Okay. They call him a Galamite several times, but they never specifically say the Galamites are the ones with transparent skulls, I don't think, in this episode.
Well, maybe not in this episode. I feel like in a previous episode they have, but I could be wrong.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, here's a picture of apparently a Galamite from an episode of Lower Decks. Let me share that with you.
Ooh. Oh.
Yeah, not really how I pictured it.
It's not what I pictured at all. Is that Captain Baudet?
I guess it's unclear.
Who knows?
I don't think this guy gets a name in that episode.
If only the people listening could see that picture.
If only.
But sensing a romantic rival, Bashir goes off on how insufferable and opinionated and arrogant Baudet is. Yeah, Baudet's the one who's insufferable and arrogant, thinks Miles.
I mean, it could be more than one person.
True. Ezri defends Baudet as charming. Then Kira walks up with some bad news. The Karaga, a ship Worf was commanding on some kind of mission in the Badlands, got attacked by Jem'Hadar and blown up. And Worf wasn't aboard any of the escape pods that were recovered. Worf is dead. Well, probably.
I mean, that seems like the most likely explanation, right?
Yeah.
Killed off screen.
Yep. That happens all the time. Someone just walks up and says, hey, this main character died. Later, Quark finds Ezri sitting gloomily at the bar. Reports are that Worf was the last person to leave the bridge, and nobody knows if he made it to an escape pod. But this implies, I guess, that the second to last person to leave the bridge did make it to an escape pod.
Or at the very least told someone else who made it to an escape pod.
Okay, true.
As they're running down the hall, he's like, hey, did you know Worf is still on the bridge? He's the last one. Anyway, bye. And then that guy died.
And then some struts and girders fall on top of him.
Yep, those freaking girders that are always just like falling on people and killing them.
They've been searching for 3 days, and there's still no sign of him. Quark, however, is sure that Worf is still alive, for Worf still owes Quark for 3 barrels of blood wine he bought the night before he left. And Worf would never die owing Quark money. It would ruin his enjoyment of Stovokor.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I kind of agree.
I mean, I'm surprised that you like extend credit to Worf in the first place, but whatever.
Yes, I'm going on a dangerous mission tomorrow. It's like, oh, sure, yeah, we'll put that on your tab. No problem. That night, Ezri is sleeping in her tiny little bed when she's awakened by a call from Captain Sisko on the Defiant, out searching for Worf. There's a bunch of Dominion ships incoming, and the Defiant is being forced to call off the search. Sisko says sorry, and then hangs up abruptly. Meanwhile, on Cardassia Prime, Weyoun and Damar are hanging out alone in the Dominion War Command Center, as usual, being the only 2 people.
No one else is ever participating in the war.
Damar watches the Defiant on the radar screen and reports that they seem to be giving up the search and are going home. Damar is about to order their ships to pursue, but Weyoun says no, tell them to go to the Sona outpost on Davos 2 to guard a Ketracel White facility there.
Need to sneak that Sona mention in
Yeah.
so that we can be related to the movie that's coming after a while.
Yep. Damar says, can't the Sona protect it? And Weyoun is like, no, you clearly have not met the Sona.
Yeah, it's true. Apparently it's the only reference in this series to the Sona, so enjoy it, people.
Weyoun wonders why the Defiant would spend so much time searching for survivors. And Damar is like, well, maybe it's because their soldiers are real people with friends and family and stuff, not just disposable, purpose-bred kill monsters like the Jibidar. And then Damar chugs a glass of Kanar and says, which reminds me, I'm not really happy with the number of Cardassians who have died in this war. Also, it's super cold in here. What's going on with the Founder? She doesn't seem well. And Weyoun is like, don't worry about it. Oh, also the Founder wants a new subspace comlink installed in her quarters, with its own totally separate channel and encryption. She wants to make some really private phone calls.
Yep. Nothing for you to be worried about. If you're cold, wear a jacket. Also, nobody cares. Oh, hold on. I forgot. I'm going to have to step back for a second. There's a note about the first scene with Sisko and Cassidy.
Okay.
In the original version, it wasn't Cassidy, it was Jake. And Jake is like, oh man, if you build a house there, I bet it'll become like a shrine to the Bajorans, which is a distinct possibility, I guess.
True. So yeah, anyway, Damar says, okay, who's the Founder going to be calling? And Weyoun was like, none of your business.
Mr. Nunya business.
Yep.
Oh, snap.
Back on Deep Space Nine, Ezri walks past Worf's quarters, then stops and uses her security override to unlock the door and go in.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because she's a counselor or what, but she can just go in anybody's quarters. It's fine.
I guess it would make sense if, she needs to do like wellness checks on people or something. She looks around the room and is flooded with memories of Jadzia and Worf. She picks up their wedding picture and remembers Jadzia's wedding vow to Worf to join with him and stand with him against all who would oppose them.
So, according to the note, this is the only episode of the entire series in which all of the regular cast can be heard and seen if you count the picture of Jadzia.
Ooh, nice. And I assume this was all pre-existing Jadzia.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Lines. Although I think there might have been a few original Worf lines. I don't know. But the Defiant returns back to the station, and Kira meets Captain Sisko at the airlock to report that Ezri took a runabout and left, presumably to go look for Worf. Why she didn't go along on the Defiant, who knows? Bashir wonders what Ezri was thinking doing that, and Sisko says, she's a Dax. Sometimes they don't think, they just do.
We have noticed that, yeah.
Yeah, you remember that time Jadzia tried to give up her whole life to live on that disappearing planet with that guy she just met, right?
Yep.
So aboard the runabout Gonda?
Yeah, so Gander is the name of the runabout, named after the Gander River in Newfoundland, Canada. Newfoundland. Originally, in the episode, it was filmed as the USS Ganges, but they later discovered that ship had already been destroyed, so then they dubbed it over as Gander. Okay,
so they had to basically go to the encyclopedia or something and look for a river that sounds kind of like Ganges.
Yep.
All right. Well, I'm glad at least they were kind of keeping track of that.
Yeah, somebody somewhere was like, wait a second, wait.
But yeah, so Ezri is trying to talk herself out of being space sick while also doing some cosplay as a full lieutenant.
Yeah, there was a note that a couple of the shots have her as a full lieutenant for some reason.
It's only when she's alone aboard the runabout. As soon as Worf shows back up, she's got her regular rank back. So I think she just really was like playing at being a lieutenant while she was by herself.
Yeah, and when Worf shows up, she's like, okay, can't let him see that. Okay, yeah.
That would be embarrassing. But Sisko calls and orders her to turn around and bring the runabout back. And then Ezri makes some not very convincing fake static noises, then hangs up. And Sisko says, okay, screw it, send her the Defiant sensor logs so she doesn't search the same places again. Then the writers decide they still need to throw Odo a line or two for this episode, so he asks Captain Sisko if he really thinks there's a chance Ezri will find Worf. And Sisko's like, oh, hell no. Odo asks why Sisko is letting her do this, and Sisko says, because she needs to, and she'd never forgive me if I stopped her. Also, let's be real, Ezri is not the most essential crew member.
Yes, we have better stuff to do than hunt her down all the time. It's fine.
Yeah. That's, just sending someone after her would make things, like, way worse, so. In his quarters, Ben takes his mind off the Ezri and Worf situation with some late-night model building of the house he wants to build on Bajor. Cassidy comes out of the bedroom and joins him. Ben says, did you know there's a running stream on the property? Which, yes, he did tell her that before. Unless this stream is different from the creek he was talking about earlier.
No, completely different things.
And the soil is perfect for growing kava. He could make his own spring wine, which Cassidy dubs the Emissary's Special Reserve.
Yeah.
Predicting it will be very popular. Which it probably would be.
I mean, I'm sure, yeah.
He could make a lot of money off that.
Unless, Bajor has joined the Federation, and then they won't have money.
Oh, yeah. Sisko really needs to cash in on this emissary thing while he can.
For sure.
The main question on Ben's mind is whether to have the kitchen and the living room separate or have more of an open concept. Cassidy favors keeping it open, but Ben worries about people coming in and bothering him while he's trying to cook. And Cassidy says, well, it's your house. And then Ben says, I want it to be our house.
Cassidy goes, why did you ask me if you already had your own opinion on this?
Right. And then he pauses and he says, let's get married. Cassidy seems clearly enthusiastic about the idea, but doesn't actually say yes. So Sisko takes a little round piece of the model furniture as a ring and proposes properly. And then she says yes.
It's a good thing that piece of model furniture was perfectly sized.
Yep. Meanwhile, Ezri's runabout is being swept all over the place by the currents in the Badlands, which is not helping her space sickness.
No, I mean, she has a good plan for trying to find Worf that may or may not get her killed. Also, it's just weird to me that apparently no one else thought of this. Like, hey, why don't we send something out there to, drift in the way that Worf would have drifted? Nope, it's just her.
I think I forgot to say the part where she goes to where the ship was and then turns off the engines. And then lets the currents take her.
I feel like she could have, chucked a probe out there or something and let the currents take that and just followed, but whatever.
She's a counselor. Okay, so yeah, she's getting swept all over the place. The computer chimes in and is like, okay, seriously, we're about to crash into some bad stuff. You should probably turn the engines back on. But Ezri says, no, let's ride this out. It's our only hope for finding Worf. And then the runabout gets sucked into one of the big fire tornadoes, but it gets spit back out again. And sure enough, there's an escape pod right there. And then also, I think at some point in the fire tornado, that's when Ezri put her correct rank insignia back on.
Good plan, yeah. She's like, wait, if they find my dead body, I should be wearing my correct rank.
Yep. Ezri grabs the pod with a tractor beam and engages the transporter, and sure enough, who should materialize but Worf himself. A little banged up, but alive. He's a little surprised that Ezri would come all by herself to rescue him without the captain's permission, but she says he's a fellow officer. She'd do the same for Kira or Julian. Not Miles, though.
No.
He's not an officer. Then she starts treating a cut on Worf's head, and they have a weird little moment where they stare into each other's eyes, and Worf is like, you know what, I'll take care of that cut myself. Back on Cardassia Prime, Weyoun goes to Boom Boom Parkins' quarters to check in on her. She is not looking super great. Her face is all wrinkly and flaky. She asks Weyoun how the vaccine is coming along, and he's like, honestly, not great. We tried it on the last sample you gave us, but it didn't work. But don't worry, we have top-notch Vorta doctors working around the clock.
Top men and women, you know?
Uh-huh.
The tippest of the top.
Boom Boom was like, okay, well, let's try this. Have the Vorta doctors write down everything they have so far, then kill all of them and activate their clones. Maybe that'll shake things up. Oh, and make sure you kill them with the super painful death implants. Maybe the agonizing pain will inspire some good ideas in their last moments.
You could involve some Cardassian scientists. I mean, I know you don't want them finding out, but it seems like restricting yourselves to only a group of Vorta scientists who have already proved they can't come up with the answer might not be the best tack.
Yeah, well, can't trust the Cardassians, though. That's the problem.
That's true, yeah.
But yeah, Weyoun is like, sure, yeah, we can just kill all those guys. Why not?
He's like, man, I'm so glad I'm not a scientist.
Right. Then Boom Boom asks if Weyoun told the Cardassians about the sickness, and he's like, no, I didn't tell anyone, but you're not really doing a great job keeping the secret whenever you come out to complain about the heat. Oh, and this is a little awkward, but I need a new sample to test the vaccine on, and then Weyoun pulls a flask out of his sleeve. Then, in a slightly gross move, Boom Boom Parkins pulls one of the peeling flakes off her face and puts it in the flask, and it melts into a dollop of changeling goo.
Yep.
Back on the station, Ben and Jake stroll down the promenade discussing Ben's big engagement news. Jake is very happy and takes credit for setting Ben and Cassidy up, and Ben says, well, if you want to take credit, you also have to take responsibility, and asks Jake to be his best man.
Okay, so during this bit, like every single one of the lines Sirach often delivers is like weird. Like he's delivering them in a strange voice and cadence, but not necessarily always the same strange voice and cadence. And I'm just like, are you suddenly in a different show? Like I'm not sure what you're doing here.
I didn't notice, but I did think it was kind of weird when he was like, I get to plan your bachelor party.
Yeah, isn't that your dream, to plan your dad's bachelor party?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I do not want to plan my dad's bachelor party or even attend it, but whatever, Jake. On the runabout on the way back home to Deep Space Nine, Ezri and Worf pass the time in silence. Ezri is bored and Worf is doing some nonsense work clearly designed to keep from talking to Ezri. But Ezri plows ahead anyway and asks Worf what it was like spending all that time alone in the escape pod. She figures the acoustics must have been pretty good in there, and asks, what did you sing? Worf tries to deny it at first, but Ezri sees right through him. She asks him if he sang Shavak de Gish, and he says no. Gavot Tova. Normally for a tenor.
Yeah, bold choice, those solos,
Yeah.
And clearly Worf is not a tenor. He is a bass, if ever there was one.
But the acoustics were favorable, so.
Or a baritone, whatever you call.
I think he's probably a bass. Ezri reminisces about the first time Worf played that song for Jadzia, but Worf says, let's not talk about Jadzia. So Ezri asks about Alexander, who has apparently been made weapons officer of the Yavang.
That's a risky move on the Yavang's part. Maybe he's gotten better at his job. I don't know.
In typical Worf fashion, Worf dismisses it as they were shorthanded. Ezri asks when Worf is going to ease up on Alexander, which isn't fair. Worf just doesn't really care about Alexander.
Yeah, I was recently rewatching the episodes where they're like Jadzia and Worf are talking about having a kid, and I was just like, after what he did with Alexander, do you really think that's a good idea? Like,
then Ezri slips back into talking about Worf and Jadzia's wedding night, which makes things kind of awkward.
yeah, there's no way that could not be awkward, honestly.
Yeah. Then Ezri says, "This is dumb. It's impossible to talk to each other if we can't bring up things we have in common." And Worf says, "Well, maybe we shouldn't talk at all." And then Ezri complains that Worf is always avoiding her, even though he was the one who told her to stay on the station. This argument is interrupted by an ominous beeping from the computer.
Man, the computer knows just when to beep.
Yep, that computer, it has great timing, for real. But Jim'Hadar fighters are approaching. Worf drops out of warp, reasoning that they won't be able to outrun the Jim'Hadar. So he takes the runabout to a planet and makes for the atmosphere, where apparently the Jim'Hadar ships can't fly. This plan works, but not before the runabout takes serious damage from the attacking Jim'Hadar.
Yeah.
Worf declares that they must abandon ship, so they grab some supplies and beam down to the planet's surface just in time to watch the runabout explode in the air above them. "Wow, good call," says Ezri. Worf says he'll go out to reconnoiter, while Ezri sets up the comms, but they quickly realize neither one of them brought any comms.
Come on, y'all. Rookie move.
Definitely, like, both of you should be going for the comms. I think this is an important lesson learned in abandoned ship procedure. But look on the bright side, says Ezri, at least we'll have plenty of time to talk, which does not amuse Worf. Back on the station, Ben and Cassidy hang out in the Replimat, making wedding plans. Everything seems pretty easy. Small ceremony in the wardroom, get Admiral Ross to officiate, Quarks to cater. But Ben can't shake the feeling that they're forgetting something.
So, there's a note here where Cassidy says, "My mother would prefer for her daughter to be married by a minister." And according to the note, and I don't know that this is, but it says, this is the first indication that Christianity could still exist in the 24th century. As previously, Gene Roddenberry, who was often erroneously noted as an atheist, had suggested that religion would be extinct by the time of the Star Trek series, especially The Next Generation. Nevertheless, in the Next Generation episode Data's Day, it mentions the Hindu Festival of Lights was celebrated on the Enterprise, and Star Trek the Original Series episode Balance of Terror, the Enterprise has a chapel on board, and there's an explicit reference to Christianity in the original series episode Bread and Circuses. In addition, Kirk expresses a monotheistic view, apparently on behalf of the human race generally, to Apollo in Who Mourns for Adonis. So, several hints along the way, but apparently this is the first 24th century Christianity could still be a thing.
I mean, we don't know what kind of minister this is. But
that's true. It could be like a Pastafarian minister. We don't know.
Yeah. Then, Ben says he can't shake the feeling that they're forgetting something. Then, right on cue, a young Bajoran girl comes up to congratulate the emissary on his engagement. She asks if she can be one of the 51 dais bearers in the bridal procession. She says everyone's saying it's going to be the biggest wedding ceremony Bajor's ever seen. Then Sisko's like, "Oh, right, that's what I was forgetting. I'm the living Jesus of an entire planet." And then motions to a big crowd of Bajorans gathering to look at them.
It's like, apparently the Bajorans expect that he'll be interested in their wedding. Although, like, Rom and Lita were going to have a Bajoran wedding, and there weren't 51 anythings, even in their original plan. So I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's like only for super formal weddings do we have the 51 thingamabobs.
I assume this is like the highest tier of wedding. Like, this is the biggest wedding mass ceremony you can have, and everybody expects him to have. On Cardassia, Damar is hanging out with a lady friend, clearly getting ready to get it on, when his door opens without so much as a knock, and Dukat strolls in. I guess this is typical Cardassian manners, because Damar only reacts with mild surprise to see Dukat back on Cardassia.
Yeah. Pretty standard Cardassian stuff, probably, yeah. You
want to go into someone's quarters? Just walk on in. Is he fixing to get it on with a lady? Yeah, whatever. We'll put that off till later.
Is he the leader of the entire planet? Right. He doesn't care.
Yeah, how did Damar, how did Dukat get here? I think it kind of shows how unimportant the Dominion thinks of Damar.
That might be the explanation, yeah.
But the lady friend leaves, and Ducat starts talking about the last thing you want to hear from a friend you haven't seen in a while, which is their newfound faith.
Have you heard about Space Jesus?
Yeah.
Damar's like, oh, man.
It's like, I have found the Pa Wraiths. It's like, no. At least he's not trying to get me into his MLM or whatever. Damar is incredulous at Ducat's newfound faith and asks what brings Ducat back to Cardassia. Ducat says he came to see his old friend Damar, and he needs his help. And Damar says, well, I'm afraid you have an inflated sense of my importance, but I'll see what I can do. To which I say, well, maybe hear him out first. Maybe he just wants you to help him move his couch. Like,
exactly, yeah. He needs you to help move a TV or a dining table, and you're the only guy he knows that, like, he knows Cisco, but Cisco's not going to help.
Right. So I don't even want to bother. I just don't need the drama of asking Wei-Yun. So
it's true. No one needs that drama, quite frankly.
Back on Goralis, which is the planet they crashed on, Ezri sits by a campfire tinkering with a tricorder, ostensibly trying to jimmy up some kind of comm solution. And then Worf comes to the fire with a dead animal over his shoulders and announces dinner. Ezri is mad at Worf for killing a defenseless animal and makes a whole big deal out of it. And Worf is like, okay, whatever, I'm hungry. I'm going to eat this dead animal. Jadzia would have understood. And Ezri's like, oh, I thought we weren't supposed to talk about Jadzia. And Worf says, I was merely making an observation. And then he asks how the comms thing is coming, and Ezri says she's still working on it, but I bet Jadzia would have it done by now, just making an observation. And Worf is like, okay, fine, let's make this an observation-free zone. Although you are right, Jadzia would have had it done by now.
Also, you know what? It's weird to be like, Jadzia would have understood. And I'm like, I mean, I feel like most people would understand that if you are hungry and trapped on a planet with like limited resources, then maybe you don't use up your emergency rations first. You see if you can live off of the land. Yeah,
exactly. Save those valuable rations for when you really need them. You might be here for like months. I mean, who knows?
Also, it's like there's an implication. It's like Jadzia would understand that when you're hungry, you get food. And I'm like, yeah, probably she would.
Then Ezri says, what is it about men? They either talk not enough, like Worf, or they talk too much, like Baudet. And then Bashir jumps out of the bushes. He's like, aha, you do find Baudet annoying. But the mention of Baudet clearly makes Worf jealous, and he asks Ezri if Jadzia and Baudet ever hooked up. The answer to which is obviously yes.
I mean, 100% yes. Like, way before you guys were together, she was hanging out with Baudet.
It's kind of weird that Jadzia never mentioned it, but Ezri says that's none of Worf's business, and Worf knows what that means, and he gets upset and calls Ezri a Slivak.
Oh my god!
Which is a very specific curse for a person who likes people with transparent skulls, and then won't talk about it later.
Yeah, Klingons don't get to use that one a lot, but
yeah, he's like, oh, I've been waiting for this.
Got to take the chance when it comes up.
Ezri tries to slap Worf, but he deflects easily, and then counters with a kiss. And then they do it.
True. That is a thing that happens.
Yep. Just telling it like it happened. After doing it, they fall asleep in a post-doing-it spoon position, but then are awakened by the sound of footsteps. It's a couple of Breen. Remember those guys?
Nope, not really. There's a note that says, after the episode aired, some fans queried why, after an apparent night of passion, Worf and Ezri are both fully clothed the next morning. Ira Bear has the answer. What was a Klingon like under his clothes? Ira says. It was just too complicated to think about. So we didn't.
Also, they're on like a hostile alien planet. Maybe let's put some clothes on for... I wouldn't want to be sleeping naked there, but, whatever. So the Breen shoot them, apparently on stun setting, and Worf and Ezri get knocked back out. They wake up on the floor of a strange holding cell type room with no beds, and are like, what WTF is going on? Ezri is sore, and Worf says, you must have gotten hurt when the Breen shot us. But Ezri says, actually, it happened last night when we were doing it. Worf asks if Ezri regrets what happened, recalling that Trill aren't supposed to hook up with former host spouses. In fact, if you recall, that's actually quite a big deal.
Yeah, it's like she will be shunned from Trill society for eternity.
Yeah, and the Dax symbiont will never get another host again or something like that. It's
I think it's clear, and the only solution at this point is to kill Worf, so the word never leaks out about what happened.
Yep. Kill him in his sleep. But Ezri's like, whatever.
It's not really that big a deal. I lied before.
Jadzia cared about it. Jadzia was really more of a traditionalist than I am. I don't really care. I didn't want this. I didn't want this Dax thing to begin with. So then they hear a spaceshipy kind of noise, and Worf realizes they must be on a Breen ship, which we quickly see in exterior view is correct.
Yep, that's a Breen ship, all right.
It's a ship at least. On Cardassia, Weyoun is looking at some intel and wonders why the Federation pulled the 6th Fleet from the Bolian front. Why, indeed.
They don't like the Bolians anymore.
Damara is too agitated to pay attention and is just pacing around. And Weyoun asks what's up, and Damara's like, nothing. And then Damara gets a call that he's wanted in his quarters, and Weyoun is like, oh, I see what's going on here. And Damara's like, uh-oh. And Weyoun is like, you're going to go bang a hot lady, aren't you? And Damara's like, oh yeah, bang.
You got me.
That's what I'm doing, nothing else.
I love doing that. And then Weyoun is left to be the only person in the war room, so...
Right. So I guess I can run the entire war by myself while you're getting it on. Damar heads back to his quarters, where Dukat is waiting. But something seems different about Dukat. Oh, right, he's a Bajoran now, not a Cardassian.
Yeah. Of all of the, surgical alterations to look like a different alien, this is the one that makes the least sense to me. And the note in here points out that we have seen before that it is possible to disguise a Cardassian as a Bajoran, both in that episode where Kira, somebody took her place, or was going to take her place, or whatever, but also Seska on Voyager as a Cardassian disguised as a Bajoran. But I'm just those two... spinal column cord looking things along the sides of their neck, those aren't important. They're not load bearing in some way that they're necessary, because they sure look like they're important.
I mean, apparently they have bones in them, right?
Yeah.
We saw one time from that guy who had the Cardassian neck bone necklace. I don't know, maybe this plastic surgeon knows how to just get rid of that and replace it with Bajoran neck support structures or something. I don't know.
That is some serious change, but yeah, okay,
Whatever. So Dukat thanks Damar for the great plastic surgeon he recommended, and Damar says, well, hopefully she does just as good a job changing you back. And Dukat says, don't worry, I have no desire to be a Bajoran for the rest of my life. Back on Deep Space Nine, Sisko works on his model house, and does a personal log saying that Worf and Ezri have been gone for 4 days, but at this point there's really not much they can do about it. I don't know why this had to be a personal log, not a captain's log, but...
just the way it is. Also, I only now noticed, but when he disguises himself as a Bajoran, they also change, he no longer has, that dark hair that Cardassians have. He now has, wispy brown-gray hair, and I was
I noticed that too.
So are Bajorans not allowed to have, black hair? Why did we change that?
Maybe that would look too suspicious. I don't know. Or maybe just, a Bajoran of Dukat's age would just be expected to have, graying hair. Where Cardassians, they don't go gray quite yet at that age or something. I don't know. We've seen gray-haired Cardassians before, I'm pretty sure. But
I was about to say, we've seen some old Cardassians. Do they go gray? I don't even recall now. Who was that Cardassian that was, Kira's dad Cardassian?
Yeah, I thought he was gray.
Let's see, hold on. His name, it was Tekeni Gamor. And yeah, he's definitely a bit gray.
Okay. So it does happen.
Yeah.
Ben suddenly flashes into a prophet vision, but instead of a bunch of prophets, it's just his mom prophet. And she says, Ben cannot share his path with anyone. It's his destiny. If he gets married, he'll know nothing but sorrow. So typical, like, mom who doesn't approve of
Yeah, right?
your
It's
fiance.
like, why don't we have dinner or something? You can get to know her better. Jeez.
Also, the Cisco's greatest trial is about to begin. But don't be afraid. All will be as it should be. Which is some weirdly temporal language coming from a being with no concept of time, but whatever.
They figured it out since the beginning of the series. Cisco has had to teach them multiple times about how time works, and they're like, okay, we get it now.
Just think back to the baseball metaphor.
Yeah.
And then Cisco flashes back to his quarters and is like, oh man, why is there always some bullshit? The end.
That is exactly his thing at the end of the episode. Why is there always some bullshit?
Yep.
But the last time he ignored the prophets, like, Jadzia died because he left Bajor when he wasn't supposed to or whatever, so...
Oh yeah, that's true.
He's got to consider their feelings this time. We might lose, like Julian or something this time.
Oh no. I hope in exactly the same way. Where
Ducat shows up again.
And then he's like, who are you? Whatever.
Pa-Wraith attack number 2! Dun, 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 dun. It's like hard rock playing. So there's lots of notes about this being like the beginning of this big serialized finale.
Mm-hmm.
Rick Berman says that they decided to do the rest of the season as a serialized thing because there was too much narrative intricacy built up over the previous 6 years. We knew that we couldn't just tie this up in like a 2-hour thing. We had to really work to get everything tied up.
Mm-hmm.
But also, each episode needed to feel like it had a beginning, a middle, and an end, so that you weren't jumping in and like, oh man, I'm at episode 3 of a 5-part miniseries. I have no idea what's going on.
Sure.
So I feel like this episode at least did a pretty good job of that. It definitely felt like it had a beginning, middle, and end.
Well, I mean, the Worf and Ezri stuff did.
Well, okay, that's, yeah.
Even though that ended on a cliffhanger, all the other stuff just felt like setup, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's the first of a 10-hour finale. I guess it kind of needs to be.
I mean, this more than anything feels like a Lost episode or something like that. Like more than any Deep Space Nine episode we've seen before, where we're just going to start moving the pieces around and not necessarily worry about paying everything off right away.
Sure. Berman also says the biggest challenge in wrapping up the whole thing was to realize that to bring closure to so many different characters was going to take more than an hour of television. Even more than a 2-hour series finale. We realized we had to start resolving characters early because there's so many of them that there were so many little strings to be put into bows. That was the biggest challenge. And he says, honestly, I think if we'd had 5 more episodes to resolve everything, we could have used them.
Well, I mean, you had as many episodes as you wanted. This is where you chose to start wrapping things up. So
yeah, that's what I was like. You could have done that, but here's why. It's because according to Ira Stephen Bear, it's like, yeah, we didn't like plan any of this out at the beginning of the year. We just planned the episodes as we were doing them, and that allowed us to find some good stuff. But it also put us in the situation where we were saying, well, it's like, well, what do we do with these characters now? What do we do with Ducat and Wynn now? I don't know. What do you want to do with them? So, they didn't start planning early enough is why we didn't have 5 more episodes of that. They were just like, whatever. We'll wing it.
So in the planners versus pantsers camp, these guys are definitely the pantsers.
I mean, to be fair, they do get like 10 hours at the end, like the whole last third of the season. So true. They started planning at some point. It just wasn't at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, we gotta start planning some stuff, or else they're gonna get to the last episode and be like, "Oh shoot, what do we do now?"
Whoops, we haven't wrapped anything up. We just introduced like 3 more plot lines in the second to last episode. What do we do?
Just the Dominion shows up and blows up the station. Whatever.
That would be dramatic. Yep. And then there's some thoughts on different major figures from the show as we came to the end of this final 10 hours. Renee Echevarria says it was frightening, and I've got to say there were moments in which I was afraid we weren't going to pull it off. Moments when I thought that we'd backed ourselves into a corner. It wasn't until we'd broken the last episode that I finally said, you know what? I think we did it.
Nice.
Bradley Thompson says, we had graphs and charts, we knew what we wanted to do, and we had kind of a wish list of what we were going to try. As far as how we were going to get there, we had no clue.
I just like this idea of graphs and charts.
Yep.
Like a big pie chart that's like, can we make that Bashir wedge a little smaller?
And then our Stephen Bear says the basic overall structure was there, but the details had to be filled in on the run. It was a journey into the unknown. We took a lot of risks. We ran the risks of taking missteps and falling on our faces, and the only thing we had that we could convince people that we were doing the right thing was the quality of the episodes. We had to keep everyone interested in order to keep doing what we wanted to do. That was our one fallback position. People might have hated the fact that it was serialized. They might have hated the direction it was going, but they had to admit the episodes were pretty good.
Well, we shall see. Well, shall
yeah, I guess that's up to us to decide, our Stephen Bear.
Yeah.
Right now, 20 years later or whatever.
Uh-huh. This is the deciding moment. This is the reckoning of Deep Space Nine.
Well, that was a different episode called The Reckoning. But
right. We have already reckoned the reckoning.
Yeah, we reckoned the reckoning for sure. They didn't finish the reckoning in the show, but that was because of Kai Wade.
Yeah.
Moore also commented, we wanted to pay off as many things as we could pay off. And so for all of our conversations tilted in that direction. What's going to happen to Quark? What's going to happen to Rom? Are we going to kill any major characters? Who's going where? Who ends up staying on the station? Does Bajor come into the Federation? All of these sorts of questions were continually chewed up by the writing staff endlessly.
So we will find out what happens to Rom, is what you're saying.
I mean, they put that right next to is anyone going to die? So I feel like he may be hinting at something there. What if like all three of the Ferengi major characters in the show got killed in the very last episode and nobody else? That'd be messed up.
That would be interesting for sure.
Steve Posey directed this episode and will also direct Extreme Measures, one of these last episodes. He found the nature of the project intriguing. The fact that he was working on an evolving story without actually knowing what was coming next. He said, I tried to deal with things the same way the characters did, as it was happening.
Sure.
And that is all the notes. So you can tell there's a big focus as we begin in on these last episodes on like making it all work and wrap up by the end of the series. Yeah. So hopefully they manage it.
There's very little about the content of this episode in particular.
Yeah, right? Maybe they just agree with you. It's like, it's a lot of setup. There's not that much to say.
Yeah. So anyway, we can jump into reviews. Okay. How do you feel about Penumbra?
Okay. Let me think here. So I feel like they really undersell the idea of like Ezri going after Worf. Because I mean, they have the whole scene in the room, and then Sisko's just like, sometimes Daxes do stuff without thinking about it. And we're done. I'm like, okay, fine. And then I guess we needed at some point because he really has been avoiding her the entire season.
Yeah.
So we needed at some point to have the confrontation where they're like, okay, let's work our shit out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that they randomly slept together. I feel like that's not only does, as you mentioned, it ignores this very important aspect of Trill society. Like, he doesn't know Ezri at all. As we've established, he's been trying to avoid her. So it's actually kind of gross for him to be, okay, let's just do this. So, like, that it bothers me that that's the way they took that, actually. And you can also tell we're moving towards resolving long-standing character things when Sisko's like, I'm going to randomly propose. Not really apropos of anything, except I want to build a house, and now that I think about it, I want us both to live in this house. So, like,
he's thinking about the future. It kind of tracks.
And so it's just like, I don't feel like we've naturally progressed to a proposal in this episode so much as they're like, okay, well, we're moving towards the end here. This is a beat that we need to get out of the way. I do like where it seems to be leading, where it's like, oh, our simple wedding idea is going to conflict with what the Bajorans want. And that has some potential to be an interesting story, except for the fact that we're now in the final 9 hours to resolve the war and all this stuff. It's a weird time to think of that potentially being a big story point. Like, first half of the season, that could have made for a really interesting episode or two, like planning up towards the wedding and having to try to balance these things. Like, I could have had some fun with that. Now it feels like just something else thrown in to the pot that we're going to have to deal with before we get to the end. So there's some decent bits in this episode, but overall, I mean, you said it. It feels like it's a bunch of setting up of things. And I know where the things are heading, and I like some of the directions that, like, some of the stuff that this is setting up for, I think is really cool. So that affects me a little bit in trying to evaluate the episode, because it's hard. We've talked about multi-parters. It's hard to evaluate them on their own. And this is kind of that same thing. It's supposed to, like he said, that it's supposed to kind of stand on its own as with a beginning, middle, and end. And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but it's still, like, evaluating on its own, it's not that great. I don't dislike it. Like, there's nothing that I'm like, ugh, I don't want to watch. So I think I'm going to put it, like, just above the line, Lieutenant Commander. But, yeah, I feel like it could have done a lot of stuff better.
Yeah, I think any review of this episode basically has to be about the Worf and Ezri stuff. Because everything else is just, like, setting stuff up, like, moving things along, which is totally fine. Like, in this day and age, we're used to that kind of storytelling.
It's true.
But those parts of the episode, like, they're not shooting for amazing, and I don't really need them to. So, like, you know, I think they're doing what they need to do, and I'm not going to, like, judge them as good or bad. They were, like, you know, say, oh, what's going on with Dukat and stuff like that. You know, keeps you just interested enough. So I'm fine with all that stuff.
Yeah.
I disagree. I feel like they didn't undersell the Ezri rescuing Worf thing. Like, I feel like they did some good showing of how this is like this is a non-Ezri, but very like Jadzia thing to do. And, you know, because we get those little moments of her like in the runabout, like, you know, fighting her space sickness and stuff. Like, she just feels compelled to do this despite it being kind of like not in her character at all. So I thought that was handled pretty good, that part of it. It has kind of like echoes of like Blood Oath. And also I felt like this episode was kind of maybe like a, what do you call it? Like companion piece to Change of Heart almost.
Yeah, I can see that.
And kind of like you hinted at, like, this part of the episode it's one of those times when we can tell what they're doing. Like, they had a thing they needed to do, which in this case was to normalize the Worf and Ezri relations. And so, you know, that was clearly a large, like, motivator to the story, which I'm fine with. Like, I think it did need to happen eventually. And so I'm cool with it. I agree. I did not like seeing them hook up. That feels uncomfortable and wrong for some reason. Not even just like, I think it's just that like Worf was making such a big deal about preserving Jadzia's memory, and that's why he was kind of avoiding Ezri. And so I feel like to just like hook up with her now just feels kind of a gross and kind of flippant betrayal of that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But in the end, I think it washes out to a pretty solid lieutenant commander.
Okay.
I'm not tempted even to put it below the line. I think it's an episode that shot for the lieutenant commander to low commander range and hit it pretty well. So
okay, yeah, I like that that perspective on it. It's like they were shooting for okay and they hit okay.
Right. Yeah. So. This is one where I have no qualms about giving it a lieutenant commander. So, anyway, any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Just I'm excited now that we're getting into this big final push. Oh, yeah. I feel like this last third of this season is what is in my mind. It's like Deep Space Nine. This is like the height of Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I guess we will see. I haven't watched it in a while, so maybe we'll get into it and I'll be like, oh, really? I didn't remember all this. So it'll be fun.
Another weird thing I forgot to mention was that I'm 100% sure that I've seen this episode before. Because I remember a lot, I remember the Wayun and Boom Boom Parkins stuff and
yeah,
the Dukat being a Bajoran stuff.
Yeah.
But I did not remember that Ezri and Worf hooked up. So I don't know if I just blocked that from my memory or...
I absolutely did remember that, and sometimes maybe wish I didn't. So yeah, no, that's.
I was like, I don't like This is not a pleasant surprise. But anyway, that's our discussion of Penumbra. Thanks for listening. If you like that one, maybe you'll like our discussion of Change of Heart, which you can find wherever you're listening to this. And you can leave us a comment on YouTube, and maybe we'll see it. Or we definitely will see it, unless it gets blocked or something. But if you leave a comment anywhere else, we definitely will not see it, because I have absolutely no idea all these platforms we're on and their various comment and review systems. So if you leave us a review on Apple, we might see that. But anyway, my name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
Adios.
We look forward to seeing you next week on Undeclared Bajor. But remember, when you have to abandon ship, bring a comm unit with you. Like, don't leave until someone has said, I've got the comm unit.
Smart. Yep.